Hello. Thank you, my goddesses, for joining us today. It is Gwendolyn here, your high priestess of the Temple of Venus. And I just wanted to talk to you today about a book that I've been reading. It's called The Idiot's Guide to Alchemy. And I love it so far. I've taken some notes inside and some things that I really wanted to talk about and make sure that you guys all get also. So, today we're going to talk about something that sounds a little mysterious and honestly a little intimidating, but once you understand it, it will change how you understand everything. So I'm just going to read notes because I want to make sure that I get every single point across. So we're going to explore this chapter, chapter 6, and it talks about the principles of alchemy, properties of first matter, and the complete Idiot's Guide to Alchemy. But I'm going to move beyond like the textbook explanation into what it means for me and what it can mean for you and your body from my own perception. Because keep in mind, one thing that I really want us to do as goddesses is to think for ourselves and draw our own conclusion about the world, because we are not wrong either. And it's okay for you to draw your own conclusion. Yes, there is like, the delusional part of this, but that's all the fun, right? So, alchemy is not just about turning lead into gold, it's also about turning yourself into something higher. So, if you look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like once you've reached all those levels and you're at the pinnacle, that is self actualization. That is, you know who you are and you're content with who you are. And as somebody who has like gone through the gauntlet, y'all, gone through the gauntlet, I can tell you that like once you get to a point in your life where you feel like you're successful, you have the things you want, you start looking elsewhere, and then you start looking within, because where else can you go when you have all the material things that you could want at this moment in time, there's a couple of things that I still want, but overall I feel like I've checked a lot of boxes that I've wanted to check. And so now I can just work on like my spirituality and ascending into my true goddess form. So let's get back into the matter. So what is first matter? Well, first matter, if you remember, cannot be created or destroyed, right? So we know that just by that, we know that it's some form of energy. And that sounds familiar. So I know that you guys remember that from way before, like when you were little. So we understand something very important. First matter is not necessarily physical matter. It is ethereal. It exists between before form, before structure, and before identity. First matter is described as being everywhere because it is the source of everything, all things. Nothing exists without it. So when the alchemist says the first find first matter, they're not telling you to go somewhere. They're telling you to perceive the world differently. So how you view the world is like not necessarily as linear as how you think you'd want to view the world. And so we're going to get into something called the Twilight space. It brings up here, let me pull this out. This is probably my favorite line of this chapter, is to find the first matter. You must first search in the twilight area between manifested and unmanifested reality. Oh, that's where we're gonna stay because I really want to talk about this. This is where people I think get confused because we're trained to think in such binaries. Like you think something's either physical or spiritual or real or imaginary, science or mysticism. But alchemy, the beauty of alchemy is alchemy exists between those two, between those binaries. All around the binaries actually is where alchemy puts its head. And so you will find that some people will want the science behind the alchemy, the physical part of alchemy, and there's channels that support that. And scientists are actually alchemists, when they create medication, when they create antibiotics, all of those things that work, because those are not things that exist normally in life. It's when they study it, when they look closer, They can find out that, you know, your body responds to Tylenol well. You know, everybody's on this GLP-1 now, so the body responds to the GLP-1. But those are alchemists because they're studying the actual tangible science. Then you have theologians who are, you might perceive them to be like spiritual or whatever spirituality you want to fall under, but those are also alchemists, right? Like, then you have the business people, people who manifested their life out of nothing. Those are alchemists. Alchemy exists in the thought process. The thought process, the development, even witches, they're alchemists, but they know that they're alchemists, even if they don't want to call it. The Twilight space is both a fantasy and is delusional. It is the interface between energy and form. And I want you to think that it is present with us right now and not in some far away land. It is actually inside your body. I believe personally that the sorcerer's stone or the philosopher's stone is actually your pineal gland. And we'll talk about that in a second too. It's the point where imagination becomes chemistry, where dreams generate emotion, where beliefs create reality. Now, in my mind, in the process, you have to have a belief in order for the alchemy process to start, right? You have to believe something. And then however you choose to exhibit that belief is up to you. And you're never too late. You're not doing it wrong. If you're trying to manifest something in your life, you just have to make sure that you stay the course and you align yourself with the things that you're trying to manifest. So even if you are like a witch, let's just say, because I do practice a little bit of, I do some spells, but in my mind, I think of what I want, I visualize it, and I use the spell to send the message out into the ethers. People think that spells are, you know, they either don't believe them or they believe them too much, but I don't think we do enough of like explaining why magic works, because magic is also a form of alchemy. It is the best way to exhibit alchemy because magic is also a little delusional, if you will. Okay, and so whatever your perception is of whatever's going on in your reality is what you're going to see in your alchemical process. Do you see what I'm saying? So the pineal gland is where beliefs create reality. It is why the ancient system symbolized as the Eye of Horus, because it's how you see beyond what is in the surface. Your pineal gland is not about hallucinating, but about translating and then turning the unmanifested into images, impulses, desires, and vision. That's the real manifestation. So when alchemy first says first matter exists in between these two worlds, what I'm hearing is that transformations happen when consciousness touches realities. We don't force, we don't beg. That's why doing all that won't even make a difference. All we need to do is make sure that we are attached from what is in our mind into what is real. Okay. Now we're going to go and we're going to talk a little bit about the first matter as chaotic. And I think that as human beings, like I said, we want to see things in binaries. We always want to try to understand something. We always want to, which is fine. But what if I told you that, like, there's nothing really to understand? Everything is chaos. Some things work and some things don't. But I think that we can learn systems, but understanding it, we can never really have a full understanding because everything is chaotic. And this is where people get scared because we have been conditioned to like fear chaos and darkness. But I will tell you that darkness is not evil. It's just unstructured potential. Everything comes from darkness. Space is dark. The womb is dark. Soil where things grow is dark. The trauma that you've experienced, people say that they've gone through dark times. And what grows out of that is usually the most beautiful part of a person. The entire solar system floats in darkness. The reason why we perceive light The only reason we perceive light is because of the sun. But dark energy and dark matter are not monsters. They're part of the unknown. Chaos is not wrong. It is fertile. You know, I want you to think about, you know, we just talked about the womb, and I want to just go back to that for a second. A baby, a child is born in the womb. It is dark in there. Your thoughts that happen of who you really are happen in your mind. It is dark in your mind. Like if there's no light in there, if the doctors cut your head open, it's not going to be beaming light. There's a lot of darkness that exists inside our own bodies. And that's how things can manifest so rapidly in our bodies. And that's why your belief system, your energetic alignment, all of that is really important, because it is going to help manifest whatever is coming out of your life. Sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. The difference is not morality, but energetic configuration. So you have to watch your emotions. You have to watch all the things that are not aligned with what your specific goal is. You got to watch out for that. But alchemy is not your enemy, okay? It is here to help you align with your goals. So let's talk about energy for a second, because now that we talked about the womb, I wrote here that people say they don't believe in energy, but you have to like understand that, like, well, most people do believe in energy. Let me not say that. So the feeling of energy is very constant. So you can walk into a room and it can feel heavy, right? You can meet someone and feel open or guarded. You can hold an object and feel connected or disconnected to it, and that's the energy. And I'm gonna mess with you here. Hold on. So sometimes people are scared of like paranormal or like haunted houses and stuff, but they're not scared to go thrifting. And I feel like the number one place where you can find items that are haunted are people's items. This dress that I'm wearing is, even though it was built in a factory and sent to me, it is still, it's built now to configure into my body. So which I always donate my clothes, but I feel like if you just buy things and you don't know energetically where those things are coming from, you could be bringing that energy into your house, because the energy comes in where like people are living. All the things that are in my house right now has some sort of spiritual and energetic alignment to me. So I just always find it kind of interesting that like people love to go thrifting but not look at it like, oh, but there's some energy that's in that, you know? It's just always been weird to me. But everything holds resonance. Everything has its own aligned, everything you own aligned itself with you. That's why children, animals, and even children that are nonverbal often perceive more, because they're not filtering out anything. Energy isn't scary, it's informative so that you know where you are. Now, I want to talk about something else, so I broke this down into something else. So let's talk about spells, because I think spells are misunderstood. A spell to me is not just about superstition. A spell is focused intention released into the field. And the mind placing information, it's the mind placing information into the ethers and letting it recognize reality. So a lot of spells or rituals contain water, fire, earth, and air. Not because those are just magical props, but they are literally things that connect your mind to the ethers. It's just a bridge. They give physical matter a way to vibrate with ethereal intention. As above, so below. You take information from your inner world, your uncalcified awareness, your vision, your desire, and you anchor it into something tangible. Then you let it go. And that is how alchemy works. First matter is not something that you acquire. It really is just something that you remember. You do not need permission to work with it. There's no fear. It just exists. It is so neutral in this world. So what I want you to do is for today is I want you to journal about some of the things that may have resonated with you in this video. And if you could please leave a comment below about what you think first matter is. Are you resonating with some of these things or ideas? Let me know. And please stay tuned, because I'm going to continue on with, I'm going to create a little series with this book because I really do love it. I find it so informative. And keep in mind that, like, I think that even if you read this and you come up with something different, your ideas are correct. Because in the space of alchemy, there is no right or wrong. We can have conversations till we're blue in the face, and that's what makes it so beautiful. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys like, share, and subscribe this video, and I will see you on the next one. And remember, as always, my goddess, it is done. Bye.